What's going on, nation, and welcome to Bench Break Episode 2, How to Maximize Chest Growth and Rest Day Nutrition. Our first question comes in from Scott Hickson, and basically what he's saying is he's been training for 2 years and he has uneven pec development. And this happens to a lot of us. Usually our more dominant side, no matter what muscle it is, tends to be a little bigger than the side we don't use as much. And I can assume from Scott's question that his goal is muscle gain. And I can tell you, right off the bat that in time, as you continue to train, your muscles will even out. But what I want to make a specific point of going over in this video is that you need to train properly for volume in order to maximize muscle growth. And you need to make sure you're training in full range of motion to make sure you're maximizing the amount of muscle fibers you're stimulating during every rep of every set. And so I have 3 methods that I like to use when I'm training for muscle gain. And what I want to do is talk to you guys about these 3 methods and help you apply them to your workout if you're having the same issue as Scott, or if you're just in general looking for ways to maximize how much muscle you can put on when you work out. So before you do any chest workout, obviously you need to warm up your shoulders. They're being used a lot in any chest exercise, and if you don't warm up your shoulders, you can run the risk of an injury very quickly. If you don't have a shoulder warm up, you can check mine out right here. Now the first method I want to talk to you guys about is my burn set method. And if you've seen my original chest video, check it out right here. If you haven't, it's the method that I'm using for every single exercise. And what I like to do is I start off with the first exercise doing 3 sets. And the first set is actually a burn set, which consists of 5 drops. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I noticed that if I do a drop set right away, or a burn set as I like to call it, I'm forcing a lot of blood to the area, and I'm fatiguing the muscle extremely quick. It's also known as pre-exhausting the muscle. And as you push a muscle to its limit and you pre-exhaust it, you need to try harder and harder to lift the same amount of weight with each set as you continue throughout the workout. So for example, set 1 is going to be a drop of 5 sets. The first set I usually do like 100 pounds. As soon as I'm done 10 repetitions, I drop the weight, I grab 80 pounds, do 10 more reps, drop the weight, I'll grab 60, 10 more, drop the weight, grab 40, 10 reps, and then on my 5th set, I like to do really lightweight for 15 repetitions. And at this point, I'm grabbing like 15 pounds and I'm having a hard time benching them because my muscles are so pre-exhausted. Now what I basically did was I infused a ton of volume into my first set to make sure I'm ripping and tearing and shredding my chest as much as possible. Your muscles aren't going to grow unless you're putting the volume into the workout to rip them down and tear them apart so they can rebuild and get bigger. And then usually what I do for sets 2 and 3 is I try to go back to my starting weight, which I did for my first set, let's say was 100 pounds. I'll try to go back to that 100 and get 8 to 10 repetitions out of that for sets 2 and sets 3. I recommend having a spotter to maybe help you through some of those forced reps if you're feeling a little weaker. But if you have to drop the weight a little bit to complete sets 2 and 3, that's okay. When you're trying to gain muscle, the goal here isn't to always increase the weight every single time you lift. Yes, you want to progressively overload, but if you're pre-exhausting your muscles and you're hitting them with extreme fatigue, and then you're going after another set, you're tired. You're not supposed to be able to bench the same weight every single set. If you are able to do that, you're either not hitting it hard enough or you're taking too long of a rest period. And typically, if you're doing a muscle gain routine, you only want to be resting like 45 seconds to maybe 90 seconds in between sets to make sure that you're not loosening the pump and that you're able to just attack that muscle while it's still beaten down and fatigued, to force it to really have to work hard to stimulate more growth. The second method that I like to use, and I've been using this one a lot more lately, is I like to do around 3 to 4 sets per exercise, and I'll stick to the 12 to 15 rep range for all my sets. Because that range is giving me enough volume to make sure I'm staying in that muscle growth area. And what I can also do in that range is progressively overload and try to add 5 to 10 pounds per set, which is going to help me get a little stronger too, but it's putting that extra tension I need on the muscle to ensure that I'm ripping it down and tearing it apart. Now the third method that I like to use for muscle gain routines, and it's my least favorite because it hurts the most, and that's experimenting with tempo. For those of you guys who've been watching my Maximum Growth series, I'm doing a 3-second negative on all my exercises. And basically when you do any exercise, there's an eccentric, isolation, and concentric motion. Concentric being the positive, isolation being, that point of where you stop in the exercise before you then go into the next movement, which could be positive or negative. And the eccentric is the negative motion. So for example, on a bench press, the negative part of the movement is when you bring the bar down to your chest. And if you're utilizing a 1-1-3 tempo, that negative part of the movement is where you're going to count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. And that's how slow you're bringing the bar down to your chest. And then you hold it there for a second, and you press up, and that up motion is the concentric part, or the positive, and that needs to be 1 second long as well. That's what the 1-1-3 means. And so that's really tough to do, and it takes a lot of mental focus to make sure you're doing that 1-1-3. But the difference is, and the reason why I do less reps, and the reason why I'm doing 8 reps as compared to 12 to 15, is because those 8 reps are now longer reps. So you figure you have a 1-1-3 tempo, so each rep's taking you 5 seconds to do. Okay, so that's 45 seconds per rep, as opposed to doing like a 1-1-1 with 12 to 15 repetitions where every rep is only 3 seconds. And this is where we start getting into things like time under tension or TUT. That's why there's so many different ways to work your muscles out there to gear your workout towards building muscle or building strength or toning or leaning out, because you can manipulate the numbers a variety of ways to hit that goal. And these are just some of my favorite ways to do that if my goal is muscle gain. So what I want to do real quick is go over some exercises with you guys just to show you what you need to be doing in order to stay in the full range of motion when you're working your chest to maximize the amount of muscle growth you have. So I'm not going to go over the entire form of how to do a barbell bench press or a dumbbell bench press. You guys can check out this video right here, and I go over step by step on how to set up to do it. But what I want to go over is a couple of things that you guys need to pay attention to when you're benching to make sure that you're hitting both sides of your chest evenly. And first we'll start off with the barbell. And what I notice is that a lot of people, especially when they have a dominant side, is that's the side that starts to go up first. And so they'll bring the bar down nice and straight, and then once they start to fatigue, the bar kind of does this and goes up this way, and then the left side kind of catches up, but it becomes more of like a shoulder and back push as opposed to just pushing and stimulating their chest. So if you need to drop the weight on your barbell bench press in order to do proper repetitions, that's what you need to do. So you want to make sure you watch that bar the entire way down to make sure it's staying straight, and then when you push up, it's staying straight as well. Another tip that you can do to help you if you're having a hard time with keeping the bar straight as you go up and down is you can actually put some torque on the bar and try to squeeze it as hard as you can, and then push your hands together. And you'll notice already that my arms are tensing up and my chest is tensing up. And if you keep that torque on the bar the entire time, even if you use just the barbell like I am right now, you're going to notice a lot more tension on your chest on the way up and on the way down. And if you haven't tried it before, I suggest you give it a shot, because you're going to be quite surprised with just how much stimulation you're getting by torquing the bar. Now, as far as incline chest press, you want to follow the same steps. So I'm going to adjust my back real quick. So same thing, you're going to get into your position, grab the bar, and make sure that when you're benching, you're bringing it all the way down to your chest and pushing it straight up, and you're keeping the bar straight. And once again, if you're having a hard time, you can push the bar, you can torque the bar with your hands and keep that pressure, pushing your hands together on the way down and on the way up. Also, while I'm here, I want to go over tempo really quick, and this applies to the flat bench as well. If you're doing like a 1-1-3 tempo, what that 1-1-3 is going to look like is the 3 will be the negative, so you're going to go 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Then you're going to hold it here for 1 second, and then on the way up, you're not just going to throw the bar in the air, you're going to control it and utilize 1 second to push the bar all the way up. So it's going to be 1, 1,000, like this, as opposed to bringing the bar down and just throwing it in the air. You're going to have complete control over the bar the entire time. you do each repetition. And if you've never done that before, you're going to love it. Now let's get over to the dumbbell chest press. And you're basically following the same guidelines. I'll grab some 45s for demonstration for you guys. Same thing here. Now obviously with the dumbbells, you don't have to worry about the bar going up unevenly, but you have to worry about your hands going up evenly. So when you get into your position, you want to make sure that you're coming out and down, and as you push up, they're going up at the same rate. You don't want to get into this where you're coming down, and then one goes up, and then the other goes up, and you start to do all this stuff, because that's when you can start to get shoulder injuries. You can also pull your neck pretty bad as well, and it doesn't feel good. So if you're doing the tempo here, I'll show you guys once again. Say you're doing a 1-1-3, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, hold for a second, up for 1 second, and you're keeping control the entire time. And we'll go over the incline here as well. When you guys are doing an incline chest press, same thing. You want to make sure you're training in the full range of motion. And what that means is starting the dumbbells here and pressing all the way up. And this is why it's so important to do that shoulder warm up, because if you have tight shoulders, it's going to be a little painful to get the dumbbells where they need to be in order to have full range of motion. The last thing I want to show you guys as far as muscle stimulation in the chest, basically going over the 3 basic chest exercises, is flies. And flies can be done a few different ways. If you're doing an incline fly, the goal is always to make sure that the tension is on your chest. And how you position your elbows and your wrists in relation to where your chest is can change the exercise dramatically. So if you're doing an incline fly, you don't want to do this. And this happens a lot. And this puts a lot of tension on your shoulders. You want to keep everything in line. I kind of like to turn my wrist in a little bit. And you want to make sure you're going down evenly like this, and you stay in line with your chest. And obviously, once again, you want to make sure everything is nice and even. So you don't want to have one hand like this. Sometimes what will happen is the weaker hand will start to kind of bend, and the stronger hand stays straight. You don't want that to happen. And then lastly, let's go over the flat bench real quick. Doing the same exact motion, paying attention to where your elbows are, and making sure that everything is in line. So you're coming down to the sides of your chest like this. What you don't want to be doing is coming out high like that and tearing up your shoulders. So you want to make sure it feels nice and comfortable, just like this. All right, so now we're going to go on to question 2. And question 2 was about rest day nutrition. And this question is from Chanpreet Dami, and he's basically asking if your calorie intake should be the same on the days that you're not training. And this question can be answered in a variety of ways, and it really depends on what your training style is and what your goal is. So most people that I talk to who are in like a serious bulking phase, and they don't care how much body fat they pack on, they'll eat the same amount of calories every single day. But for me, it's a little bit different, and I've been doing a lot of experimenting lately with my own meal plan to figure out exactly what works for me. I go high protein now, meaning like 250 grams of protein a day. And some people say that might be too much protein, you only need like 1 gram per pound of lean weight. I go like 1.5 grams per pound of lean weight on my body. And the reason why my protein number is high, I mean, that's not even a super high number. Most people go like 300, 320. So I guess I'm more in the low end of what's considered to be high, but you have to understand, if you're trying to build muscle, your body first needs to take all the protein it gets for the day and go about its daily functions in repairing your body, and then go after repairing your muscle tissue. And I can give you a quick example. Say you just did a hardcore chest routine, and then you went home and you fell and gashed your arm open. Your body's going to take that protein to fix the gash in your arm before it goes and repairs your chest. So you need to make sure you have plenty of protein to prevent muscle breakdown and to also promote muscle growth. So that's why I go high, like 250 grams a day. I keep my fats really healthy, and I stay around 90 to 100 grams a day. And like I said, once again, the carbs are low, like 150 grams a day for my carbs. On my rest days, I still try to keep my protein at that number, and I still try to keep my fat where it is, but I'll decrease my carbs because the reason why I'm eating carbohydrates is for energy. I know, because I've experimented over the last month, that if I don't eat enough carbs before I go to the gym, I just feel like my stomach's caving in the entire time. Like I have these invisible hands reaching in my torso, trying to pull energy out in order to do the lifts. So what I've been doing is, taking the majority of my carbs for the day about an hour or two before I go lift, and then after I'm done lifting, I'll go home and I'll have another balanced meal still with carbs to help replenish my glycogen stores, because the carbohydrates are your energy. So on the days I'm not lifting, I don't need that many carbs because I'm not going to go to the gym and expel all this energy, or I'm not going to go for a run or anything like that. So on my rest days, I'll drop it down and maybe I'll increase my fats a little bit more, or I'll increase my protein a bit more just to make sure I have enough calories for the day so I'm not losing muscle tissue. I've also noticed that if I stick to my low-carb diet, that after about a week, I start to feel kind of like tired and lazy regardless. And so what I've had to do is implement a refeed day. And what I like to do on my refeed days, I'll boost my carbs back up to from 150 up to 300 or 350 grams, but I try to do that on a day where I expel the most energy, which for me is like on a leg day. I know a lot of other people like to go on a leg day to be their refeed because they're using a lot more energy on that day, so they are going to burn it off and not store too much. So if you're trying to figure out exactly what works for your body, you might have to do some experimenting, but you can kind of take from what's been working for me, maybe apply that to yourself and your own goals and your own daily meal plan structure and how your workouts are for the week to see what works for you. So I want to thank you guys for watching episode 2 of Bench Break. If you have a question, just email me questions@scotthermanfitness.com. And as always, guys, more good stuff coming soon. See ya.